This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
What do you do when you have a giant story to tell and you're scared to speak it as your own? Valeria Teles interviews Isabel Chiara, the author of Eat Your Words. Coach and author Isabel Chiara has supported hundreds of clients to actualize their life's greatest potential, to reconsider obstacles as opportunities, and how to meet challenging moments with heart. As much as she has had dedicated decades to personal growth and development and held master-level certifications from dozens of spiritual schools, she'd kept her lifelong struggle with food well hidden from her work. Having honed her intuition for decades, nearing her 60th birthday, she recognized the greatest gem of wisdom on her journey might not glimmer from a distant mystical star, but would be discovered by stepping more fully into the art of self-nourishment. She knew she had to break her own silence about her struggles in order to connect to her physical body, to deeply explore embodiment. As it is her gift to help others to transform how they see their struggles, she realized she had to support herself similarly in this capacity. The more she spoke to her community about the quandaries of food choice and body relationship, the more universal her personal story became. From this place, she created Giana Giovanni, loosely based on aspects of her own story, but presented in a relatable way so that, true to Isabel's nature, her own healing journey could be offered to others. Isabel Chiara is the creator of the life actualization process and has served as a guide, mentor, and leader for over 30 years. An eternal student and practitioner, both of transformational energy modalities, Isabel supports her clients by helping them to ignite their full passion and align with their most authentic life path, masterfully supporting the liberation of constricting beliefs, definitions, and self-limitations. As a result, her clients are able to access a deeper wisdom and joy within their lives and experience a world of prosperity, miracles, and magic. Isabel spends her time exploring her backyards in Connecticut and New York City, in addition to connecting to her deep roots in Italy. She can often be found traveling the globe, whether leading a retreat or on a personal pilgrimage. When at home, Isabel is busy with her career as the owner of multiple businesses. Meet Isabel at eatyourwords.isabel-chiara.com. Here's the interview with Isabel Chiara.
In your own words, who is Isabel Chiara?
Wow, right off the bat.
Yes. Yes.
She's a woman that will stop at nothing to help heal others, heal herself, look for what's underneath everything. And she is a person that loves life, feels passionate about life, and wants to help really make a difference in the world.
This is a question that I often ask. Do you feel that there is a destination for healing, or it's an ongoing process?
Destination. I was living my life like there was a destination. I was trying really hard to get there.
Right. Yeah. Oh, tell me about it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I figured the more I did, the faster I'd get there. But having said that, I now realize that it isn't a destination, and the real juiciness is part of the process, right? And being present for the process, because we can all be, I mean, a lot of times when people think of healing, they think of somebody else doing it for them.
Right.
And instead, which I kind of was hoping for myself, and now realize that, in fact, it's a very active process. You know, you're part of it.
Yeah.
And in the middle of it is where you find the gold.
I wonder what drives us to participate and to be present in our own healing process, to take charge, per se, to be responsible for it. Is that something that we choose to do, Isabel, or this is something that just life itself kind of inspires us to take that path?
Interesting. So I could speak for me in saying that it was, I think, a lot of times put in front of people, you know, and we can, you know, we can be in denial a lot of times, but then I think that whatever's happening gets a little larger, a little more present, to the point where, so I guess it depends on how much pain you have versus pleasure. So if your life really becomes painful and you keep living that painful life, at what point are we going to say, hey, maybe I'm part of this whole creation?
Right.
But, you know, it depends on the person, I think, you know, as we move along in our life, you know, how much can we tolerate?
That's true. And I have been kind of thinking about using the word sensitive, how sensitive we are to all this. That might speed up the process of healing or going deeper to find truth, if there are some. Yeah, it's by being sensitive, it seems to me. And suffering, that's a big one. We do see lots of people who have suffered quite a bit and they are still on that path. They don't change. So that's kind of interesting to see.
Do you think, Valeria, that people who suffer think that that's part of their life and they're accepting it under no unconditional terms? Because like sometimes things can happen, the same thing can happen to different people and people perceive it differently. It's not as like that doesn't faze them. So I just think it depends on where a person's at in their life.
Yeah, so we are talking about belief systems, right, Isabel, in this case.
Talk about belief systems and how, you know, I mean, for some people, you know, perhaps suffering, they could hold it as a motivator.
Yeah.
You know, the more they suffer, the more it makes them reach higher goals for themselves, you know?
Yeah.
I think that it depends on how a person holds these different sensitivities of what you're calling them, how sensitive they are to these things. Or maybe they choose in suffering to be, you know, totally numb to it, and they still can move forward in their life.
True. And I know we are using the words choosing, and this is something that I'm dancing with these days about, I don't know how much I believe in choice anymore. It seems like we come to realize some things within ourselves and life itself. I mean, we are life. And then it seems that coming from that space, we can see more options because we're more open, but there's no such a thing as choosing, really. I don't know. Yeah, I've been actually talking to a lot of my guests about that. How do you feel about choice or choosing, actually?
I think what I believe changes is how we respond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's something that might have affected us because of how we perceive, like, you know, somebody says something to you and you take it totally personal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we could choose to look at it, right? And say, where's that meaning? Where's the meaning coming from? I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about choice. Like, where's the meaning coming from that would have me react in a certain way?
Right.
So as far as choice in that way, if we look at it and say, okay, well, they didn't mean it. This is how this person talks. You know, it's not about us. It's not about me, or it's not about you. It just could be the way that person presents themselves all the time, or that person has shown up in my life to allow me to look at that part of me. Then I think we have choice in how we look at things and how we respond or take it personally. So I think that's choice. Is that that's what you're talking about, right? That kind of
I have so many questions for you here, the opening questions. But before that, I'm curious about this a process that you have created called the life actualization process. Talk to me for a moment about this, how it works, Isabel.
Yes. So it's a transformational process for people. And it is exactly what we just kind of touched on.
Right.
It's really taking these patterns in people's lives that they're uncomfortable with, they don't like, they want to move it or transform it in some way. And I always believe that a lot of patterns that we have, or a lot of the events that have happened in our life, are ways in which to, like, it happened for us to get to another point in life, right? So my process is about going underneath the whole process, going underneath the pattern and really looking at it from an inside perspective and seeing feeling it in your body, of course, and then seeing it on every single level and knowing where it came from and working out the transformational part of it within your psyche on some level, right? Your psyche kind of helps you move through that event. And then by seeing the event as it happened and seeing all of the parts that are holding it in place in your life, we're able to see and shift it. Well, I track the actual person, the client, I track them, and helping them move forward in ways that they're able to, because some people hold on to their patterns, right? They're uncomfortable, but if they can see themselves in it, in other aspects of their life, then they're able to move past it. And it's really a very powerful session because I bring in a lot of beliefs and different modalities into it, including energetic work, and people have great results.
That approach makes a lot of sense to me, resonates, because that's how we get to uncover what's there. It's not even a discovering thing, it's uncovering what is really getting in the way for that, not the purpose really, but the wish that we have, which seems like we all have in common, to be happy, to be at peace. Those patterns, especially coming from limiting beliefs, they get in the way incredibly. I mean, they just do that. That's their job, really.
And Valeria,
on
top of what you're saying right now, like, people don't realize, that they have limiting beliefs around things. They think that, or we all think, it's not just we all think that, oh, no, I'm positive. It doesn't matter how, it just matters what you're saying to yourself and what you're also seeing in your like, kind of like we could see from within ourselves what the world outside looks like on some level. We're actually, when we create when things are happening around us that we don't like, or not happy with, we're actually seeing it happen in a certain way. In our mind, it's either in our mind or in, different, we just keep seeing the same thing. And sometimes we just have a knowing that things are going to happen in a certain way. Hard to change that from happening outside of us, like the world's a mirror. It's hard for that to change outside of us also.
If you don't change inside.
We're not changing what we're seeing inside. And we really got to go underneath that to see what we're really seeing. It's a great exercise for people. Yeah.
Are we accessing the subconscious by doing this work?
Yeah, we're accessing our unconscious.
Unconscious, right.
Unconscious, subconscious.
Oh, wow. It's getting more complicated.
Yeah. That's probably getting underneath all the layers, wherever it is.
Right. The layers, of healing, really.
And you can play with what you're trying to create afterward, but it's got to we have to dig it up a little bit. But I think it's, once you're in that discovery process, it's easy to track and figure out what it is, what the beliefs are. I like to get down to it really quickly and see what's holding people there.
Let's talk about your book, Eat Your Words. What was the main inspiration and intention, Isabel, of writing your book?
So I think that people who write books always think they have a book inside of them. I had a book inside of me. And, it was never anything that, it wasn't like when I was growing up, I was like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. But, when I reached my 40s or 50s, I started writing down titles of books in my notes. And saying, okay, I could name a book this, I could name a book this, but never thinking that what I would write about is what I wrote about. But one day, like 15 years ago, I heard this title, and it was called Eat Your Words. I actually heard it in my brain or in my head, or, it was channeled to me. I don't know how. And I wrote it down, and I kind of, when you finally hear something that resonates with you, you hold on to that, right? And I didn't even know how to go about writing a book. But, I took a couple of little workshops here and there. And then, recently, 3 years ago, I got really serious about it. I knew how to write this book because it's also part of my healing journey and my relationship with food. But it was also difficult for me to write that because I, grew up in an environment where you never told people how you felt. You never discussed your feelings. And there was a lot of shame around food and eating. It's not one of those things that people like to, hey, yes, I have a problem with eating. I have a terrible relationship with food. People don't like to discuss that.
It seems like it. Yeah, it's true.
So, but I think it's a really big problem or really big discussion right now in the world, especially, stressful, reasons why people eat. They're stressed, just they're sensitive. They feel the affairs around them, what's going on in the world. And it's creating a lot of, people find solace in their food.
Comfort, yeah.
Or it's, all those things that we, need to make us feel okay. And food has been, it's like the drug of choice. And it depends on how you, so.
True.
Yes.
Did you find out the main cause for that relationship with food? Is that something it comes from childhood, or this is something that is just from everyday life? Because I do it when I'm feeling stressed, and then I eat more carbs, especially for some reason. That's kind of interesting to see that, witness that.
Yeah, well, of course, there's all these, the more stressed we are, the more we choose different, is it crunchy, is it salty, is it creamy, And I think that we go through the whole litany of all of them at some point.
So true. Yes.
Okay, well, this one is carbs. Next one is anything salty. It's not like, and the other thing is that we start to develop, self-images of ourselves that aren't so great. And then we try to control ourselves and forbid ourselves to eat foods. And we go through this whole parenting of ourselves. Okay, you can't eat this, you can't eat this. And then by that time, of course, we become rebellious of our own selves.
Right.
And it becomes difficult to even get a handle on what it is, how to work with that part of ourselves that keeps choosing to, okay, that's it. I'm not listening.
Yeah.
And what I try to do is line up, talk about different experiences in life, which are relatable, with your parents and what they said and what happened. And so to just discuss, and it's written in the third person, the character's name is Giana Giovanni.
Yeah.
And so she's funny. So every time she eats something, she describes it in a certain way, which is totally relatable because I'm not making fun of it, but I'm making it like, okay, I'm just going to choose, I'll choose food, I'll choose this. So it's kind of a, really a hysterical book. But it's true, it's sad on many levels because you don't realize as one's growing up, you don't realize all of these things have developed into reasons and factors of, where you're at right now with your relationship with where one is at with the relationship with food.
When you say that, I think about being playful. That's what it comes to me. By reading the chapter you sent me, that came across. That's very light and playful, and although sad.
It was a sad part of history, though, right? Really had, but it was the way it was described was very light and playful, because I think that there's a playfulness and a lightness to every situation. When it becomes your problem or your, we curse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like dramatic here.
Yeah.
When it becomes your focus, I'll say focus, because that's really what it's become, a focus in life.
Right. True.
I'm going to eat, I'm not going to eat. And every time you go to grab something to eat, it becomes a whole, number of questions or statements or conversations in your head. So once that starts to happen, it's a big unraveling.
What would you say today, Isabel? It's do we have a perfect relationship with food? Can we get there? Or this is always something that's, it's just moving, being out of balance and then coming back to balance. 'Cause it happens to me a lot. I go back and forth. I mean, not in an extreme way.
Right. So first of all, I believe everything can be in balance. So we just want to be in balance, right? We don't want to be one way or the other. We want to be in balance. And we want to be in relationship with something, so that we feel okay around it. So we're not having the words. That's why I call it eat your words, because we're eating because we hear these words that we're telling ourselves all the time. So that describes the quantity of what we're going to eat, the quality of what we're going to eat, the texture of what we're going to eat. So I did my best in this book to break down a lot of the words that we say to ourselves. And my hope is for people to just be conscious of what they're saying to themselves, right? Because don't forget, that's all coming from your unconscious, what you mentioned before. So if we become conscious of it and they see, another person thinking the same thing as they are, it's relatable. They don't have to feel discouraged, or they could feel, okay, yeah, there's a possibility here. While we're doing this, I'm on my second book, which describes a lot of modalities that I've investigated, researched, to begin to work on the relationship that people have with food, including myself. I use the book as a healing also for myself. I don't say for everybody else, I say for everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like that
myself,
inclusion. Yeah. Like we're all humans, right?
yeah. Person, it's all worth it, right?
I would love to hear from you the connection, or if you separate them somehow. Is self-compassion, self-love, and self-care somewhat the same? Do you use those words in the same way or somehow differently?
I think there's a little difference between self-compassion and self-love. I think compassion is more turning to yourself and being kind of sensitive to yourself, being very acknowledging of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Acknowledging of the behavior. Yeah, I am doing this, and you're okay, and you're still okay. Mm. Right? That's okay no matter where we're at.
Yeah.
I think is huge, huge, huge. And self-love is also that. And I feel like self-love is, and it's so funny you're even asking me this question, because I think it's one of the most important things is to really get down to what the feeling is in the body. Yeah. Once we're at that self-love place, the world around us looks loving too.
So true.
The outside of ourselves is more loving.
Yeah, true.
One is directed toward behavior, one's directed toward, feels more universal, and it feels more connected to everything around us.
Yeah, I love those descriptions. And now I'm using a lot more the word unconditional love, unconditional self-love, which seems to be a much challenging place to get to, if there is such a thing as a destination for that, which just by using the word unconditional, that means there's no destination. Everything is just perfect as it is. We don't have to change anything. Not even to feel whole, to be whole, because that's what we are. I really believe that we are all whole, but we have this feeling of something else, that we are broken, that we are not healed, that we need so much work, which at that level, if we are experiencing this reality, from those lens, then we do, that becomes real too. All the work that we have to do, healing. I love healing, and I do the work myself, and we talk a lot about here. But ultimately, it's everything's whole. There's nothing that's not whole.
Well, I also agree with you. I think that every possibility of how to be and how we are is all within us, right?
Yeah.
And we're just activating, right, those parts of ourselves as we go along. And sometimes we're just more focused on one part than another, so that we can't see. There's like a shadow. Let's look at the shadow. So there's a shadow over the other possibilities.
Right.
Because all of our attention's focused on one part of us.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about. To be whole is that possibilities are right in front of us. We just have to tap into it.
Yes, right. Whatever direction, because we are whole and free, then it's just easier to flow with life and get where we want to go, to feel, actually, because it seems like everything's a feeling these days. It's coming to me a lot more in this way, the message of feeling. Everything is a feeling. I'm wondering what's not a feeling.
That's so funny you're even saying that, because I used to think of it the other way also. I used to think as like I would see it first and then I would feel it. But now I don't know. I think I'm feeling it before I even see it. Like your body is so intellectual. I mean, so intelligent that it knows. So I think many times, not that I think, I've experienced many times where, you've heard of people that have, before something's going to happen, they already are getting headaches, their whole body's reacting to things, right? And I think that we have become, as a human race, that sensitive lately, that we have feelings that we know things are going to happen before they even happen.
Yeah, you see, that's how deep we can go with the sensitivity. Yeah, we can feel even before it happens, because in the way we are connected to everything, we are kind of infinite energy. So everything, it's connected and everything's whole. So how could we not feel what's going to happen? It's almost like the other way around. It would be unnatural not to.
Yeah, I totally agree.
What is spirituality to you, Isabel? Is that connected to what you do, the work you provide?
So I just think that everything we do is spiritual.
Yeah, I agree a billion times. Yeah.
Anything, even if you're making food, I feel like it's a spiritual experience. I think spirituality is really connecting to the spirit inside of you, the spirit of whatever your spirit's connecting to, even the spirit of like the food that you're making. You're connecting to other people's spirit, so everything could be just a spiritual experience, and it's how deep you can take that, and how you even hold it, or how you even look at it. But I think you're talking about on a more universal, is it spiritual to do the work on ourselves? I think anything we do for ourselves is a spiritual thing, is a spiritual undertaking, is because the intention is about love and connectedness, right? Ultimately, we want to feel love and connected to people, or ourselves also.
It is at the core of spirituality, right? This maybe not even connecting, because we can't really disconnect from it. We are it. It's the uncovering of that, almost the realization of that. Do you hold any spiritual beliefs or practices, or you just have this very holistic? And I love the way you talk about spirituality.
Thank you. Well, I do. I mean, I now make time for myself. A lot of people do spiritual morning practices, which are for themselves, where they could be with themselves and really feel themselves. I think that's really, really important. I really never made time for that. And I think that's an injustice to ourselves. But
I agree. Even breathing, right, Isabel? We tend to forget to breathe. That's so fundamental, breathing. And we are often disconnected from our breathing when it comes to the body, at physical level. So I love the way you talk about feelings, feeling the body. I agree. When I remember asking somebody, what is the purpose of the human experience? And she said, some people say, to live, to feel with all the senses. That just resonated true to me. What do you love most about being in a human body?
Well, I'm glad you're asking me that now, because I want to tell you that about a year ago.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, today was so interesting. I started crying for no reason.
Yeah.
And I was getting upset with myself because I was crying and I didn't know why. And then I realized that what I was watching, I was with someone and they said to me, because we were talking about something, we were talking about moms, and that made me cry. And I'm about to cry right now again.
Yeah, I think you're making me emotional.
It was just the word moms, but I guess the word moms made me, got me to thinking about my mother.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm so sad. And he said to me, he goes, why? Your heart is so open. You're saying it's sadness, but to me, I just saw your heart open up.
Right.
So that in a nutshell is one of the most important parts about being in a human body, that we can experience that open heart, right? And we can experience sadness. I used to judge sadness, and now I welcome sadness for myself.
Right. I love that, Isabel. What a beautiful message. Yeah.
I'm glad I had that experience. I knew that whatever that happened this morning, I was going to share it with someone. Just didn't really.
I love that. Yeah, this is when you say open up, open in the heart, right? That means not being afraid to feel, letting all feelings in, inviting them.
Even you, when I described that story, you just felt it.
Yes, the whole body. I had goosebumps and
you
emotion.
understood what I was saying when I was telling you that story, because you could feel my heart.
Yes, the resonance is an energetic resonance. Yeah, it has nothing to do with knowledge, intellectual understanding. It's in the body. It feels to me like the body is the anchor of the experience, of the experience of life. That's the anchor, and also the anchor of separation too. Like we can play with being separate and being individuals, but we come from wholeness. We're perfect. There's nothing that we can do to be better than we are. Right.
I agree with you. We do come from wholeness. Yes. You're already whole. I agree totally.
There's nothing to be added.
That's a long lesson, but if people can get that now, that they are whole, that's more power to everybody.
Let me ask you some of my last questions. But before that, Isabel, would you like to add anything or read a passage in your book?
Oh, I didn't bring my book upstairs with me. I didn't think we were going to go to that. But I do have something to say. And that is that anything that happens in our life is happening for us, right? It may look bad. It may be a way that things are changing direction in our life, but it's happening for us, and we can make it mean so much more to us in our future, right? It can really be something that has made our life more deep, more rich in the future for us.
Yeah, we can transform. Absolutely. That's what life is all about, isn't it? Creation, transformation, renewal. I mean, that's life. So, and we are life, so why not? Why not explore that realm of transformation over and over and over and over again?
Also have the choice, the choosing to how we relate to whatever's happening to us too. We can look at it as, good, bad, and different, not judge, or we can choose, okay, this happened. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to do this about it. And, life we don't get stuck in that spot.
And when I think about choosing, I think about if that can somehow become more intuitive, where we are just not even thinking too much. And that must be like the healing work. That might come from that place, right, Isabel? When we have done enough of the healing work, now we just flow, and we can almost like, yes, gracefully make these choices without even being aware of them, make it the right ones. It seems like it might be possible, but I don't know. For me, it still takes work. I still have to think about, okay, this situation, how do I respond? And then there's a pause, and there's this thinking happening. So my last questions to you, what is another word for healing?
Is it one word?
You could use more than one. Yeah, more than one.
Healing, uncovering, discovery.
What was the hardest lesson to learn about yourself and life as of this moment?
That's a good one. I think that what I had said, that things are happening for us, that whole concept that, okay, what am I going to do with this? That concept of this is happening for me in some way. I can't see it. I always tell myself, I don't know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Right? So this story could be the best story ever. I just don't see the whole story yet. I'm not at the end of the story.
Right.
So,
yeah. It's still being written. We are still.
And the other thing is, let me just add one more thing, was that I used to think people were intentional about their actions. And then I figured out people don't even know. People say things and they don't even realize what they're saying.
So true.
They're just saying things.
So true.
And so it's not nothing's personal.
Oh, that's a big one. A big one, too. When we realize that, that no one's really doing anything on purpose. They're just doing what they do, coming from the place that they are at, right? Giving what they have. You cannot give what we don't have.
Right.
Is there something else that comes to mind, Isabel? The hardest lessons when you think about them?
Well, I think that, we took so long to work our way through these hard lessons that we don't have to go back and relive every single one of those lessons and hold on to them, right? We could just move past it as if we already did that. We already learned that lesson. We already held that to heart, and it created pain, or it didn't create pain for us. So we could just move on and apply that to other situations.
Yeah. And it is possible to do, isn't it? Yeah, if we are open, it goes back to that word. If we are open enough. Mm-hmm. And my last question is, what are 3 things about life you know for sure?
That I can trust myself.
That's
that I'm always I can always figure out a way, right? There's always some kind of solution.
Right.
Even if you can't see it.
Right.
And it depends on everything has more than one possible. You can look at things in any way, and you can find the good way to look at. You can find the way that resonates with you.
That makes me think about life, like this moment talking to you now, this being the fulfillment of life. Just being the human body, just realizing this is already a miracle in itself, to be alive. And to be able to have different feelings, we do label them good and bad, and they do feel heavier, some of those feelings, obviously, but we are feeling them, and that's aliveness. That's the embodiment of life. And if we can remember that, Isabel, that would be incredible.
Right.
This is a miracle, however it comes. It's already a miracle. This is fulfillment in itself, already, the way it is. I do have one more question for you, a technical one. But before that, I want to thank you again for your presence, for your beautiful presence. I love how authentic you are. This being genuine, to me, that's like a song. I love your wisdom. I love everything that you do, the work you do, how you do it. It's just beautiful. Thank you so much.
And I really appreciate the work that you're doing out in this world, and your podcasts are so amazing, and how deep you go with them and how deep you go with others. It's truly a gift. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for the encouragement. The body really appreciates that because the body and the mind and the heart, they're already there, but the body sometimes complains. So that's a good encouragement, Isabel. Before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
Isabel, Isabel Chiara, CHIARA.com. It's Isabel-Chiara.com. And everyone can go on my site and download the first chapter of my book just to get a taste of the flavor of the book and see if it resonates with them. It's an excellent book. Yeah, I think everyone will love it. Yeah. And you can order it right from my site also. So it's Isabel, Isabel Chiara, CHIARA.com. And there's also on the site going to be a membership site that's called Healing Activation Process Integrations. On that site, which is, I have a bunch of processes that I've written that are really, that allow you to get deeper into your psyche and look at different events that have happened in your life. And, through a lot of these integration processes, people, can shift different ways they're looking at things in their life and ways that they're experiencing past behaviors in their life, and can kind of transform some things for themselves. So they are able to do that on their own with these integrations. So I'm super proud of it. It's about to launch in 2 weeks.
I'll have those links on your podcast profile. As of now, I have just one, because it's not there. It's not live yet, right, Isabel? So please send it to me, and I'll have by the time this episode is published, right?
It'll be right on my site.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, yeah, that will be there. So I'll have the link on this podcast profile. Thank you so much again, Isabel, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Isabel Chiara and her work, please visit eatyourwords.isabel-chiara.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.